Ralph was a buck, a wild male rabbit. He had a grey-brown coat, long ears, and a white tail that amusingly jiggled up and down with every hop the small creature did. The rabbit had had many adventures with his friends, Peter the wild horse and Susie the wild boar, in the past year. But now Ralph was alone. Susie and Peter had found animals of their own kind and led a quiet life. Ralph didn't have anyone yet, no partner yet. He did not worry, however. There are rabbits almost everywhere. He would find his sweet doe, a sweetheart female rabbit. And indeed, he ran into such a beautiful female rabbit. She had a finely shaped face and beautiful long eyelashes. Ralph jumped towards her. The rabbits sniffed each other. "I'm Ralph. What's your name?" She replied with a sweet voice, "I'm Carrie." The buck asked whether Carrie perhaps already had a family. "No, not yet." "Will you come with me? Shall we tell your mother that we are going to start a family?" Carrie thought this was a good idea. Well, rabbits always go about these things very fast. That's why you can find them literally everywhere. Carrie's mother thought Ralph was a cute boy. She agreed that Carrie would stay with him. They walked a long way through the forest and came upon a hill. "This hill is perfect for digging our burrow," exclaimed Ralph. "Just the right kind of earth. And look, if we build it here, the rain doesn't flow inside." Carrie was okay with this. She gladly left the choice of the location of their burrow to her husband. She would take care of the interior and the nursery. The two rabbits went to work. At the foot of the hill, hidden among the trees and bushes, the rabbits dug a hole in the ground, tilted slightly downwards. "We will make the living room over here," Carrie decided. So that was where the living room was excavated. From there, they made another tunnel to the nursery. The rabbits didn't only work. No, definitely not. Rabbits also like to play. And they played tag and leapfrog. Rabbit leapfrog looks very cute. One rabbit comes running up fast, and just as they are about to crash, the other one jumps up in the air, as high as a yard. Did you know rabbits have very strong hind legs and can jump very well? Not long after, Carrie became pregnant. There were babies in her belly. Carrie decorated the nursery further. She laced the floor and the walls with grass and moss. She took the softest hairs out of her stomach fur to make a warm bed. There were 7 children, 4 girls and 3 boys. The brand new father looked fondly while the babies drank milk from their mother. Feeding only took a moment. A few minutes later, Carrie stood up and said to Ralph, "Shall we go out and grab something to eat?" "What? Carrie left her children in the burrow? All alone?" "Indeed. A female rabbit only visits her children once a day to feed them, and nothing more." Does that mean she doesn't love her children? Oh no. One time, a snake came into the warren, and the mother rabbit made such a rattle. She kicked the creature with her front legs and her hind legs, and sank her teeth into the skin of the monster. Eventually, the snake gave up and fled. "Darling, I will go out for a stroll," said Ralph, and hopped out. He ran a bit from the hole. He took a deep breath. Ah, beautiful crisp smell. Hey, what was that? What did he smell now? Danger? Ralph stood on his hind legs, front legs crossed over his chest, and his nose wide open. He looked around and sniffed about once more. Danger? No. That was a nice, sweet smell. The smell he knew all too well. It was the smell of carrots. Ralph hopped in the direction of the aroma, and indeed, he saw a delicious, crunchy orange carrot. Not only were the leaves visible, he saw a large carrot in its entirety, simply lying there in one piece on the ground. He didn't even have to pull it from the soil. Strange, Ralph thought. I've never seen carrots grow above the ground. He walked cautiously towards it and thought, that's a nice carrot for Carrie. My darling will be so pleased. Ralph actually fancied a bit of a morsel himself. He hopped over the wire, and he hopped past the stick. He didn't notice the wire cage that had been placed over the carrot. The stick held up the trap. And just as Ralph was about to take the carrot, the children pulled the string that was attached to the stick, and bam! The cage fell on the ground, over the rabbit. Ralph had been imprisoned. The children came running and screaming, "We got a rabbit! We got a rabbit!" Ralph was afraid. His body was shivering all over. What's going to happen to me? The children took the rabbit by the scruff of the neck and put him in a bag. It was dark in there. Ralph couldn't see where they went. The children ran home and excitedly talked to each other all the way. At home, they showed their catch to their father and mother. "Go ahead, quickly put him in his cage and give him the carrot. He must be scared." Ralph was put in the rabbit's cage. The rabbit was indeed terrified. He had never been in prison. The cage was about as big as his own living room. But the difference was, he couldn't go out. The children came with their faces close to the bars to see the rabbit. "Rolf! We will call him Rolf." "What's that?" thought Ralph. "My name is Ralph, not Rolf." He turned and sat quietly in the corner. A hand came into the cage. 2 hands. 2 children's hands. They wanted to pet him. Of course the children wanted to stroke Ralph. A rabbit has such nice, soft, warm fur. Have you ever petted a rabbit? Then you know what I mean. But Ralph was afraid of those long arms that came close to him. There, fingers at the ends, just like pink carrots. Ralph vehemently bit one of the pink fingers. The child started to cry and ran to its mother. Mummy comforted the child. Let's allow the rabbit to get used to his cage. Tomorrow, when he is accustomed, he won't bite. Ralph thought to himself, we'll see about that. But the rabbit did pity the child a little. The days passed, and it must be said, the children took really good care of Ralph. The cage was cleaned regularly, he always had fresh hay, and he got a cup of food without having to do anything. He didn't have to be afraid of being eaten by wild animals. So Ralph let the children come closer and closer. He started to like being petted. But even so, Ralph never really got used to it. He thought of his dear wife and of his children. What would they think? Maybe they thought he had run away. Would they be worried? Would they be safe? He couldn't run in his cage, and he really loved to run. Ralph couldn't jump in his cage. He hit his head against the top. But then again, there was no one to play leapfrog with. And that was the worst. Autumn began. The rabbit thought of all the delicious wild mushrooms that were growing in the woods. But he wasn't the only one who was hungry. It was a poor family that had taken Ralph. After the children had gone to bed, Mum and Dad talked about the Christmas meal. They looked at Ralph. They looked at each other. Mother said, "We shouldn't. The children are so attached to Rolf." Father replied, "They've already caught one rabbit. They can catch another one." They looked at the creature. Mother frowned, and Father licked his lips. Ralph was not deaf. In fact, rabbits can hear very well with their long ears. He had heard everything. With big frightened eyes, he looked at the two adults. But Ralph was not the only one who had heard everything. One of the children had woken up. The boy was thirsty. He wanted to ask his mum for something to drink, but listened quietly behind the door when he heard the name Rolf mentioned. The boy heard the plan to eat the rabbit for Christmas. He tiptoed and crept back into the bedroom. He gently woke his brother. What is this? Why have you woken me up?" Quietly, he told his brother what he had heard. They wept with grief. To eat Rolf? For Christmas? But that's horrible. The boys made a plan. Father and Mother were busy behind the house in the vegetable garden. They were weeding and harvesting vegetables for soup. The children went over to the rabbit's cage. They grabbed the money and pressed the animal against their chests and cuddled him. The boys said with tears in their eyes, "Dear, dear Rolf, Mum and Dad want to have you to eat at Christmas, to roast and stew you in the pan. Dear Rolf, we love you. We don't want to eat you. We will set you free." Ralph stroked the children with his nose to say that he understood and that he loved them too. The boys carried him through the front door, carried him to the place where they had caught the rabbit. They put him on the floor, patted him one last time. Ralph hopped back into the forest. The boys watched the rabbit. Tears welled up in their eyes. But they also laughed at the sight of the sweet white tail that jumped up with every hop. Ralph turned around one more time. He jumped for joy. A jump over a yard high, as a token of farewell. The children waved. Ralph hopped back to his hill, back to his beloved wife, and returned to his 7 children.